Hi, Kathryn here with Handmade by Circle Art Design. Well, happy July 1st. And with July 1st comes the idea of 4th of July here in the USA. And so today on my work table, let's make a red, white, and blue bracelet and matching earrings. This bracelet and earrings is cute enough to be worn any time of the year, and yet it is perfect for the 4th of July holiday. So let's turn our eyes to the mat. So, just in case I do not get to see you on Thursday, I wanted to tell you in this little segment of being simply grateful, how simply grateful I am for you. And that I live in a country where I can put out these little videos and talk about my Lord and making jewelry and sharing time with you. I am truly, simply grateful for this. I know our country is not perfect. I don't think any country is. But still, I am so grateful for the place I live, which is in Texas, as you can tell probably from my accent. But I am truly grateful for the life that I get to live and experience in this country. What about you? What are you simply grateful for today? Have you thought about the good things where you live? Is there something the Lord is reminding you can be simply grateful for? All right, let's turn our eyes to the work table. Okay, we will need some memory wire for this, and you will need memory wire cutters. And this is a heart slider bead. And I bought these at Wild Beads this last summer, but they do have different slider beads. And for this piece, you will need a substantial slider bead. These are these beautiful melon beads in the blue spot that was in the June bargain bead box. I have these gorgeous little 6mm red glass beads. I think they look like pomegranates. They are so pretty, the pomegranate seeds. Then I have some of the 5mm shell beads. I'm also, let's get this out of the way. I'm also going to be using some of the red spacer balls. Okay. Sorry, I don't have a better picture of this, but the camera did not record. I don't know if I ran out of space. I don't think so. I think I just forgot to push the button. But what I have done is I have cut 2 circles of memory wire and the gold. Now these circles, I have done a complete loop, and then from the point that I started, I did another half a loop so that each of these circles are a loop and a half. And when we finish the bracelet, you will understand why. So remembering that you are going past where you started each loop and go all the way to the other side so that your ends are parallel to each other, you're going to cut with your memory wire cutters, and then we're going to take our straight nose pliers, and you see those little loops on the end? We're going to turn a little loop, and we're going to turn it up and make sure it's closed, and then I put 2 spacer balls on it. And now we're ready to pick up where I left off and didn't get recorded. So the first thing we're going to try is putting on, I believe, super duos on the very end so that we can join them. I've taken 2 white super duos. They have those teeny tiny little holes on them. And I'm going to head and I'm going to put one on and then the other. I had tried a different way of doing this first, and it didn't work because it didn't let the beads slide that were in the middle. But this is what we're going to start with. I can't guarantee it's what we're going to end with, but this is where I'm going to start. So once I do that, I'm going to take my ends and I'm going to separate them. Now, Oh, my hands have fallen off. And can you see that little pearl right in the middle of the screen? The one thing you really want to do is you want to make sure you keep your wires together. And I am using one of my little sewing clips to see if we can do that. I wish I had a smaller clip, but I don't, so we're going to use what I have. I would suggest you look around in your own stash and see if you have something that will keep your beads from sliding off. Now I'm separating the ends of both bracelets, and I'm going to start with, you know what, I don't think I want to put this on. Well, let's go ahead and see what it looks like. You need a spacer ball, then one of these little 5mm shell beads. And I'm going to put a second one on, if I can find the hole. Yeah, it has been a long day whenever I started this, because I had already done something before this, but I wanted to get this done so that I could show you before 4th of July so that you could look in your own stash. And now I'm going to go ahead and put on 2 more spacer balls. So for this, whatever bead you're using for white, you want to begin and end with the gold spacer balls, and then you're going to go ahead and put 2 of them on and end. And now these are glass. These are I would call them ruby red. They're the same dark color as those heart slider beads. And I just love them. So whatever bead from your stash you're using for the red, put 2 of those on in another spacer ball. And then I am doing the dyed and heated agate. Now they actually go from a nice dark blue to one that is so light that it almost looks white until you put a white bead up against it. And so for each one of these stringing pieces, I am using sets of 2. A spacer ball, or whatever you're using for your spacer, and then the white and the red and the blue. And so let's see here. I'm going to play with this till I get it down, and I'll hold it up for you. Now you see how let's see if it gets better whenever I've got it all twisted here. Okay, let's see if it gets better whenever I get it moved down. And so what we have is this right here. And I'm not sure I'm going to leave the end the way it is. It just really depends on if it fixes itself as we move along. But our pattern till we get to the middle of the bracelet, oh boy, am I messing with this, will be white, red, blue, with some type of spacer to divide them. And then I'm going to start over with the white. And so it should look kind of like that. You see, I'm having a lot of trouble keeping these bracelets separated, and I am not sure I am loving this. But we've got something on both sides, and we're going to continue on. And I'll let you know when I decide if I'm going to do something different. All right. So again, I'm going to speed this up just a little bit with some music until we get to the middle of the piece. And the middle is the middle of the circle with your 2 half ends on either side. It's not where the piece was cut. It's the middle of the bracelet with the half end on each side on the side of the bracelet. All right, let's go ahead and put our beads on to get to the middle. So as you can see, even though part of the bracelet is down from this picture, I have the 2 loops we turned at the beginning, and we've gone all the way around the bracelet blue to between the top of the 2 loops on one side, the melon beads, and the wire I got in the June bargain bead box on the other side, along with this beautiful now it's time to lay out the beads that we want bead for the top of the bracelet. It's a kind of a leaf heart, and I just love it. I picked up several of these from Wild Beads last summer, and that shop, if you're in there and you love it, you should buy all that they have, because you never know if they're going to get any more. So once I've laid this out, it'll let me know how many beads to put on either side so that this will be the top of the bracelet. So once I've laid them out, it looks like I'm going to need about 1 more set, maybe 2 on either side, so that I can get to the top of the very bracelet. So I've ended with the red. I'm going ahead and put on the white again. Remember, the pattern is white, red, and blue. Then the spacer ball. And let's bring this down and see where this brings us on the bracelet itself. Oh yeah, that looks perfect. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's go ahead. Oh, I have to move one of those down because it jumped. That's one of the problems I had with working with this whenever I joined them at the beginning. It's just trying to make sure my little loops stayed the same at the bottom. Okay, so now that I've got that, I'm looking to see where it is on the bracelet itself. Let's see, am I going to need anything else? Only to clip these down so they'll quit moving. Okay, and as you can see, I am now at the very top. Remember, the top isn't from where you cut to across from it on the diameter. The actual top is the middle of the half circle extra you cut to the top of the diameter. So I have put on my melon bead, a spacer ball, my slide, and I'm only doing the top of the heart right now because I want these melon ball beads to be on the top of the bracelet. And so once I have done that, I'm going to go ahead and make sure everything is moved down. And let's see, that's looking good. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a spacer ball, and I'll go ahead and build this all the way around. Now then, the next thing to do is to decide what I'm going to need for the bottom of the heart. For this heart, for the beads that I'm using, I'm going to use the spacer ball. Then I'm going to use 2 of those little 6 millimeters red glass. And let's see how this looks. Do you see that? And then I'm going to do another spacer ball. And I am putting the bottom of the heart right on that. Okay, let me show you a picture. So again, on the top row, whenever I've gotten to within the little space that I've set for my top of my beads, and for me that was ending on the white, those little 6 millimeter white, I'm sorry, those are 5 millimeter white shell. I'm going to go ahead and put on my spacer ball, those beautiful melon balls, another spacer ball, and the top of my slider bead. Now, if you're not using hearts, if you're using a rectangle, a circle, as long as it doesn't have a design that has a directional design to it, whatever you want to be the top, you're going to put that on with the larger beads, with these melon beads. Then I'm putting a spacer ball, and I'm going to continue to build down, mirroring what I have done on the other side of that bracelet. So now then, we're going back to what I would consider the bottom of the bracelet. It's actually the top in this picture, but it's the top so I can see it. So I have ended again with the white. I've done a spacer ball. I've put on 2 of the red, whatever bead you're using for red, and another spacer ball. And now I'm putting the second wire through the bottom of my slider bead. This will join my beads together at the top. Then I'll put a spacer ball and another melon ball, and I will build this down, mimicking the beads again on this bracelet. So I'm going to speed this up, and I will meet you in just a moment. Finishing up, getting to the end of this bracelet, would you please take a moment and like and comment on this video? And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, would you please consider subscribing? And when you do, would you click the notification button so you will be notified when I put new content up. Thank you so much. And we're back. So taking my bell pliers, I am going to go ahead and turn a loop just like we started with. I'm sorry that one didn't get recorded, but using that smallest one, I'm going to turn it till it touches the end of my bracelet, just like that. Now, after looking at the other end, I don't really like this at all. I thought I would, but it makes it hard to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bell pliers again and I open up my loops. Then I'm going to cut off that little piece that's all wiggledy-wobbly if it won't let my super duos come off, and it is giving me a hard time. And then I'm going to do 2 different loops so that my bracelet is only joined by that slider bead. So once I've done that, I'll take my memory wire cutters. I'm going to cut that off. Always turn it away from you when you do. You don't want to have something fly into your eye or up into your glasses and mar them. Now, just like I did on the other end, I'm going to take the smallest one and I'm going to turn a loop all the way down until I get it to close right by that spacer ball. I really like using a spacer ball for the very end of my bracelets. It's a little bigger than an 11/0 seed bead, and it kind of closes that up much better. Now then, I'm going to finish off the other side of the bracelet, and once I do that, I will turn it and I will see you in just a moment. And we're back. I'm just checking to make sure that my bottoms on each side or the loops are going off the same place. If you wanted to put charms on this bracelet, this would be where you would add them, but I am not going to do that. So I'm going ahead and putting my spacer ball and a blue ball on there to make sure that I have even amounts on both bracelets. Maybe not even beads, but the bracelet will stop in the right place. Taking my belling pliers again, I'm going to go ahead and twist that around so that it will close it off. We are almost through with this bracelet. I can hardly wait to show you the earrings I have to go with this. So now then I'm closing it up, I always want to try to close it with that and it does not work. Closing it up just like that. Make sure that it touches so that nothing slides into that loop. And this bracelet is finished. Now this is a beauty. You put it on either side just like that. And It is so pretty. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? It is perfect for 4th of July, but you know, because of the beads I chose, this can be worn anytime. And the reason I made that long half circle on each of the bracelets was so the bottom would be heavy enough to balance those beads on top. That way your bracelet, instead of sliding all over your hand, should stay with your slider bracelet and your melon beads on top. All right, let's go on to the earrings. So first of all, you might notice the light is different. I'm doing these in the morning instead of at night, so I have light coming through my window. The only thing that I am using differently for these earrings is I'm using this beading wire, these little crimps, and right up in the right-hand corner by the red beads between the red and the white, you will see some clamshells. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some beading wire. So I've made the earring on the left of the screen, and let's see how we did it. The first thing I'm going to do is put a spacer ball on, and I'm going to move that wire through the bottom of the heart, and then I'm going to put another spacer ball on. So now I have an end on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and take another of the spacer balls and put on that side, and I am going to run that wire through the top. Here, I'm going to put my second spacer ball on just like that. I said, move that out of the way. I can't reach the spacer balls. And I'm going to do a crossover on that top, and I'm going to move it through. Now, the thing you have to be very careful with when you're doing this crossover is to make sure you have enough wire on both sides of your slider bead. And I'm sorry, my fingers are... There we go. There's a good picture. So if you'll notice, I'm being very careful about pulling this so that I get wire on both sides. Now, once I do that crossover, I have wire coming out of both the bottom and the top, looping around, crossing over, and then coming out the top. Here I am adjusting the wire. I did not get enough wire on one side. But again, we put a spacer ball. We move the beading wire through the bottom. We put two spacer balls. We move it through the top. We put another spacer ball on the opposite side and do a crossover. And now I have a spacer ball. Then I'm going to put on one of these beautiful little shell beads that we have been using. And then the agate, that beautiful dyed and heat treated agate. And then my glass in that gorgeous, gorgeous red. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So again, a spacer ball and the shell bead. And again, whatever you've used in your bracelet for these colors, this is what you would use with your earring. A note to yourself is that this will make them heavy. I wear clips, so I have to make sure that I don't make my earrings so heavy that it has to pinch my ear to keep it on the earring. But if you, and you need to be sensitive to that too, especially if you're making for yourself. Now I've put a spacer ball through both of the beading wires here, and I am adjusting the wire so that it will get as close to allowing these little beads to sit next to each other at the top. It's going to make a little teardrop, but you do not want your wires to cross because we're going to be crimping that. Now, isn't that pretty? I just love that. Okay, next up, we're going to go ahead and put on our clamshell. And I'm sorry, my hands have come completely off the mat. You can just barely see the clamshell at the bottom, but I'm putting it through the back of the clamshell. When you use these clamshells, be very careful. This one was bent backwards in the in the little bottle it came in, and I tried to bend it forwards, and you'll see here in a minute it's going to break on me, and I'm going to end up having to use another clamshell. Then I'm putting on my number 1 crimp, and it doesn't matter what color crimp you're using because these crimps are not going to show. So there it went. So I'm going to have to take this off and get me another one and try again. As I was saying, they're not going to show. Once you get the crimp on and make sure your wires are parallel to each other, I have taken and just mashed across the crimp. I have not used my crimping tool. And I'm going to take it again, and I'm going to just cut these wires off because I've done a little pull on this, made sure it was tight. When you crimp and you're not using a crimper, you must make sure that your chain nose pliers really mash that flat and that your wires are not crossed over. If they're crossed over at some point when you least expect it, they will start rubbing against each other and will pull themselves out, and you could lose your beads. But this is the piece ready for the earrings. Now, if I was going to do this in these beautiful little hooks that I have right here for pierced, what I would do is I would make sure that my loop on my hooks and the loop on my dangle are in the same plane so that they would face forward when I wear them. If you don't want them to face forward, that's fine. But here with this one, if I use this, the loop on the earring is different from the loop in the dangle itself. So I'm going to have to use 2 jump rings to get it to face forward because that's the way I like it, and these earrings are for me. And I'm showing you here, 1 loop is parallel, 1 loop is vertical. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the next size smaller in my loops, and these little babies right here, and I'm going to take that one away because I don't want to put a lot more length in these. I have a very short neck. So I'm going to open this up between 2 chain nose pliers. We're going to do it just like that. And these are a little hard to work with because they're so small, and I don't have any of those wonderful little needle nose pliers. But I'm going to go ahead and get both loops of my clamshell into that jump ring. And this is a little hard for me, I will not lie. I'm thinking if I could just pull it up closer to my bifocals, I could see what I was doing. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the closed jump ring on that at the same time. That way I just have one less step to do. Once I've closed that up, I'm going to make sure I'm filling it because I did not fill it to make sure it was closed. And if you'll look, it's lapping over each other, and that is not closed. And the problem with these chain noses, I pulled out 1 chain nose that was smooth and 1 chain nose that had the little grooves in them. When I'm doing really small work, I like to use the ones with a little groove so that it holds on better. The trick is just to be very gentle with it. The one that's slipping off has no grooves because you do not want to scar your piece. Now I've opened up the second jump ring, and then I'm going to put it into my clip earrings. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Make sure right sides are together. If you have a right side to your beads, you want, just like material, you want right side to touch right side. Then when you lift it up and open it up, your earring will be facing the way you want it to whenever you put it on your ear. And it's the same way whether you're using pierced earrings or whether you're using the other. So let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to speed up this little bit and talk over it. So just like on the other side, we're going to open up that jump ring. We're going to put it through both sides of that clamshell little loop. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting it because my clamshell was not quite closed. I'm going to have to turn it around, twist it, make sure it's in the right place, and then go ahead and put on my jump ring just like that, my second jump ring, and then I will put it on my clips. As I said, these pieces are for me. I have already worn them several times this week, making sure everything worked properly before I showed it to you. I love this design. I looked up slider beads in slider focal beads on Amazon, and they have a lot of them. But check your own stash. See what 2-hole beads or buttons you have. This would make a great set for any holiday. But remember, when you're designing something like this, isn't that pretty? I just love that. That is just gorgeous. You want it to be reminiscent of the holiday, but you also want to be able to get a lot of wear out of this. Because it is in blues and reds and whites, I can wear it with just anything, with the white color, the blue color, or the red color. And because I didn't pick something that was specifically for 4th of July, I can wear this all summer long and truly into the rest of the year. Now, isn't that pretty? Let's see some pictures. Thank you again for joining me today. I had a lot of fun designing this, and I have to tell you, it gave me a little bit of trouble. I had 2 different designs before the design I settled on. I hope you have an amazing 4th of July. And look at the back of that bracelet. It would be pretty worn either way. In fact, I'm thinking about doing something like that. But I hope you have an amazing 4th of July. You see friends and family, and God blesses you with a wonderful day in His peace. If I don't see you Thursday, I'll see you next week. God bless y'all. And may you have an amazing beading adventure of your own. Kathryn, handmade by Circle Art Designs. God bless y'all.